They say that Rome was the greatest civilization of antiquity. But what if I told you that in the shadow of majestic hills and under the arches of a starry sky, there flourished a civilization whose customs were as dark as they were grand? This is the story of the Etruscans, a people who preceded the Roman Empire but left behind only mysterious traces. However, genetic studies suggest otherwise. The Etruscans were a mix of local Italic tribes and mysterious settlers from Asia Minor. But one feature sets them apart from all their neighbors: their language. It is so unlike Latin, Greek, and other Indo-European languages that even the Romans themselves said, "Etruscan cannot be read." Their writing remains an enigma to this day. Some scholars even consider the Etruscans the ancestors of the Slavs. The reasoning is simple. Etruria was a true marvel of architecture and art. Their cities, fortified with mighty walls, covered half of the Apennine Peninsula. These fortresses were so impressive that the Romans simply adopted their style. But behind this beauty lay dark secrets. The Etruscans believed that the world was governed by gods who demanded sacrifices, human sacrifices. When laying the foundation of buildings, bodies were thrown into the ground. In difficult times, slaves, or even the Etruscans themselves, would sacrifice their lives, pleading with the gods for mercy. But the most terrifying thing was yet to come. They held bloody rituals where children were sacrificed and messages to the gods were sent through fire. They were convinced that this would grant their wishes. And gladiatorial combat? Yes, the Romans inherited this tradition from the Etruscans. But for the latter, it wasn't entertainment. It was a ritual. Gladiators fought not for spectacle, but to take the place of an Etruscan life offered to win the favor of the gods. Etruscan religion was steeped in fear of the gods. They believed that the gods lived in the heavens and watched their every move. To discern the will of the gods, priests divined using animal entrails or interpreted lightning, which they considered messages from the heavens. But the most frightening aspect was their cult of the dead. The Etruscans believed that the souls of the deceased continued to live in tombs, and therefore, they often visited them to share news and bring food. But that's not all. Archaeologists have discovered the remains of children who were sacrificed to the gods. Their bones were found in urns beneath stone slabs, as if they were keys to unlocking the afterlife. And yes, these rituals were so horrifying that even their neighbors, the Greeks and Romans, regarded the Etruscans with suspicion. To them, the Etruscans were not just barbarians, they were the embodiment of cruelty. Despite their dark side, the Etruscans knew how to throw parties. Their feasts were legendary: naked women, wine, music, and orgies. Yes, you heard that right. Historians describe them as a people where sexual freedom was the norm, and homosexuality was part of both everyday and ritual life. Over time, the Etruscans began to assimilate with the Romans. Their cities fell, and their culture dissolved into the mighty Roman Empire. But even then, their influence remained. The Romans adopted many of their traditions, from hairstyles to divination. The last mention of the Etruscans is tied to the era of Christian persecutions. Their priests, called haruspices, were accused of serving the forces of darkness. When Rome was besieged by the Visigoths, desperate citizens turned to Etruscan seers for help. But even their rituals proved powerless. Today, only ruins of their cities, mysterious texts, and archaeological finds remain of the Etruscans. But their history continues to inspire us. Were they the ancestors of the Slavs? Perhaps. But one thing is certain: their civilization was unique, contradictory, and incredibly fascinating. Subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video with friends.